Everyone that is tuning in live on this Thursday afternoon to the Naked Ambition podcast. I am your host, Fiona Triaca. Now, on the podcast, we are fortunate, as you know, for those of you who tune in week after week, that we speak with the people who are making an impact in tech, innovation, and leadership all around the world. Now, I'm so excited in this episode to be welcoming Kate Dillon. Now, Kate is the founder and creative director at She Lion Group. She's also a national transformation lawyer at Gilbert and Tobin, currently on mat leave. She's the mum of two little girls. She's a lawyer with a passion for design, transformation, process improvement, and innovation. And I actually think personally, because I know a lot of the stuff that Kate's been doing, that is even under egging it. So we are going to hear about some of, specifically really a recent campaign that I think is quite groundbreaking when it comes to true innovation after the massive year that we have had. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Kate Dillon.
Oh, thank you. Lovely to see you as always.
So good to have you on here. Now, Kate, do you want to just kick us off and jump straight in? Because the reason that we really wanted to chat today was around this amazing support local campaign that you have run. So I'm going to let you do the introduction, but this is around your recently launched range of end-to-end Australian sweatshirts, yes, which has brought together 20 plus local makers and suppliers to create something that is 100% Australian made, milled, manufactured, all across the board. And tell us a bit about it. How did it get started and what drove you to do this?
Well, I think like for everybody, 2020 was a bit of a kick in the guts and quite a shock. It sort of came out of nowhere. And so many small businesses were obviously affected by the pandemic and continue to be. But She Lion in 2019, pre-pandemic, was doing quite well. And I'd really geared up to buy a whole lot of extra inventory than I normally have, and was looking down the nose of 2020 being a big growth year. And all of this fantastic stock arrived in January, February, and COVID hit in March. And then it turns out, you don't need a fancy bag that's very functional to go from the kitchen to the home office. So COVID dramatically changed the need my product served and the problem that it solved. And I very quickly had to think about what I was doing if I was going to survive. And I was, to be honest, really gutted about how many other businesses were also affected. And then the lockdowns, while incredibly necessary, were just killing people left, right, and centre. And I wanted to try and do something if I could. Although I'm little, I was really keen to try and come up with something that would have sort of a chain reaction and, start at least spark some hope and get people, having some awareness about all these other businesses that were suffering. And as you probably know about me, I've always been a big fan of a slogan top, and something like that in lockdown when I had a newborn who happened to be very sick with reflux, little sleep, and I had a 3-year-old at the time. They're now 1.5 and 4. Mm-hmm. And then we were in lockdown in regional Victoria. My husband was going to Melbourne for construction and sort of staying in Melbourne 3 nights a week, and you're trying to run a business and you're not having much sleep and everything that goes with that. A slogan top was like very much something that I would put on regularly at home and be like, yes, this is making me feel good, and something that I was wearing. And I posted it on Instagram on a particularly rough day after having no sleep, saying, women are amazing, we can do this, kind of a pep talk to myself that I was putting out there publicly, saying, get it together, Kate, this is, it's going to be okay, superhero top. And quite a few people said, gosh, you should make a top like that with Walk Fearlessly, your tagline for your business. And then that was like, gosh, that is something that I think is the product that could really pull together a whole lot of other Australian businesses, and something that really could be made here, because handbags, unfortunately, to the level that I need to make them with the construction detailing that I have, is just really not possible commercially at the price point to be able to do it here in Australia. We use obviously ethically vetted and sustainably vetted factories overseas, but there just isn't the manufacturing capability here anymore. There was, but there isn't anymore. But with garments and with cotton, there really is. And having worked at Feathers when I was at law school, and a massive fangirl, and Margaret Porritt, knew that she manufactured here in Australia, knew that she manufactured at CGT, randomly on a whim thought, oh, I will call CGT and I will just pick his brains, and maybe he will help me. Totally naive about the process and how long it would take, thinking, maybe I could turn this around in 3 months, having had the idea sort of around June, I think it was. And he was so lovely. He completely opened his book of contacts, which is just like unheard of in any setting, like law or any other. It would be like me almost going up to another handbag retailer and them telling me all of their factories that they use and the tanneries that they use and the prices that they pay. And if you ask this person, make sure they tell you about this. And this level of detail and this generosity that just completely blew me away. He was also blown away by the concept himself, because apparently it is quite unique for absolutely every element to be made in Australia, let alone mostly in Melbourne. So there were 20 businesses in Melbourne and 2 in Sydney, and then a couple of other peripheral businesses in Melbourne, if you're counting like all of the business running activities. But all of the ones that directly touch the tops, there's 22. And he was instrumental in like saying, if you want the fabric to actually be milled here, this is the guy to talk to. And if you want it to be this GSM, and if you want it to have this quality, and if you want it to feel like this, and if you want it to have this finish, you need to speak to this person. And this is where you go for trims, and this is where you would go for woven labels that are actually made in Melbourne, and this is where you would go if you want to get packaging that is actually all manufactured here in Melbourne. And so then it was like a case of having all these Zoom calls and text messages and phone calls to all these random people who had been cross-referred from other people in the supply chain, who were then hearing about what the project was and then getting really enthused themselves, and then wanting to chip in however they could. And it was just so inspiring to be part of it anyway, let alone to be able to produce something that was as beautiful as it was. And then I just felt completely compelled to be able to share everybody else's story, because they were essentially all helping pick my business up as well, much more so than I was to them. And I've just been blown away with the outcome. So it's been great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Really happy.
Yeah. I want to go back. It's just such an amazing story. Okay. Did you have any idea that there would be more than 20 or 22, you said, businesses involved
in
the making of one shirt? Like, what a supply chain. Talk to me about that. Like, because it's the same as with, with any of these things. We don't necessarily know the magnitude of what it's going to take to do this thing when you start, which is sometimes a gift. But talk to me about that sort of in the beginning, what you expected and what you found.
I think that was my lucky charm. From an innovation perspective, I absolutely had the beginner's mindset. And so I went in and was asking all the questions that people don't necessarily ask, because I hadn't been trained in that area and I knew nothing about garment manufacturing. All I knew was that I was not going to be one of those people that just calls and then doesn't follow through. I was absolutely about convincing the people that I was talking to that I do run a business. I do manufacture handbags. I do understand the process. I just don't know the details of how it's done with garments. Not that I'm in any way professing that I understand that it would be similar, but I know that there will be certain pieces involved, and I would be hugely grateful to you if you were willing to guide me a little bit on this piece. I promise I'll follow through. I promise I will make an order, because I think the standard thing is, They get lots of calls from people and then they don't follow through, apparently. And so I was adamant that I was going to follow through. And yeah, I was very naive about the fact that there were that many processes, because I think so many of these technical bits occur generally offshore, so you don't see it, and you would deal with one or two factories that would have all of these technical artisans in-house that would go and deal with all of these different elements. And if you're doing it individually here, let alone in a sort of very, very small business with a small team that doesn't actually understand or know about any of these details, you're absolutely relying on one person saying, oh, have you done this? No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I'll get onto that. They're like, yes, you could get on. Did you know about this, this, and this? No. Okay, I'll get onto that too.
I'll get right on it.
Yeah. And so like I thought grey marl was the colour that you dyed fabric. Turns out it's actually two different threads that you weave together. So I was like talking to the knitting mill saying, so yeah, I'd like to make white and I'd like to then dye it grey marl. And he must have been thinking, wow, well, we've got a long way to go with this one. And then, for instance, that there's shrinkage factor in material. So not only do you have to, well, in 100% cotton, let alone at least, you have to wash it when you buy it, but then you have to wash it again when it's made into a garment. And the way that it shrinks is different from when it's separate as like rib and fleece, as opposed to when it's connected into a garment with rib and fleece. And then that changes the pattern again and it changes the fit. So you have to test all of that. And then when you change the color or you change the print or whatever, that can affect things as well. And yeah, all of that was done over Zoom. And if you've seen the video, literally they were the pictures that I was sending to the very, very patient pattern maker on teaching me how and where to measure from seams and like wash them in my own washing machine to see if I could see what the shrinkage factor was, because I couldn't actually go to see Sam at Richmond Laundry because of the various lockdowns until a certain stage. I had darkroom samplers helping me because they were like a distributed network of people with industrial machines, which is different from sewing on like a home sewing machine. I mean, if you think about it, I knew that, but I didn't know that that was a thing until I had to do it, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But I was kind of just thinking, you know, a sweatshirt, this is something that's quite simple. It should be quite straightforward. Obviously, there'll be a bit more involved if we're making it here, but like had no idea that it would be as involved and how many people's jobs you're supporting. And there's just so much opportunity for us to bring it back, and then to be able to have this visibility over who you're working with and have this much deeper connection, because you can go there and have conversations and actually understand in a lot of detail very quickly when you are a beginner what you'd like to achieve and get a much, I suppose, better outcome faster, really high quality, beautiful outcome. And you know that you're paying people properly, and you know that it's made in an ethical environment and it's environmentally friendly, and it was a solar powered mill and everybody's ethically certified, and everybody, you know, is Australian. It's just lovely. Like there's just so many positives.
What has that inspired in you? Let's stay on that. I think that's so interesting to think. There's a couple of aspects to the movement, and I want to get to sort of some of the results that you've seen as well. So you said it's been wildly successful. So we'll talk about that in a second. What, if you're thinking about the future of this, has this inspired something in you, Kate, to go, do you know what? This is sort of a way that we need to be working. We could be working. What are you thinking about She Lion? What is that? What's the sort of future for Australian manufacturing or innovation in Australia as you're thinking about it?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, I need to preface anything I say with the fact that I'm no expert in manufacturing or in garments, and I have been doing what I've been doing the hard way, like learning on a very steep learning curve over the last 12 months. So I'm not sitting here as a seamstress with 30 years or someone who owns a garment construction factory of 30 years being able to talk about this, but having met all of these veterans in the field and understanding their point of view. And I went and interviewed all of them on my phone, thinking that I would be able to make this video that has come out now, which is truly amazing, on my phone. Quite funny. I have an amazing mentor at Visual Domain, Renice Brewster, who has produced the video that you've seen, which is so much better than what I put together myself. But I had interviewed all these amazing people and asked them all these questions about, how they survived 2020 and what they see the future of manufacturing being, and are they seeing Made in Australia coming back, and what do we need to do to raise awareness around this? And this piece around making the video was all about giving back to them and shining a light on Australian manufacturing and our capabilities and the amazing talent that we have here that we need to foster and nurture and create a succession plan for if we really want to keep it here, was something I didn't really have much awareness about as a person who's not necessarily touched by it. And there were these amazing things that they've said, like, you shouldn't be asking why is something so expensive. You should be asking why is something so cheap.
Yeah.
And then, going to speak to people who are specialists in making jeans and dyeing and washing, like Sam at Richmond Laundry. He was like, if you're buying something for X amount of dollars, there's no way that anybody has been paid correctly for that. And just all of this spectacular insight that I think people should be aware of, that you're not aware of unless you're told. And I think it will need a lot of input from probably a really senior level in government, and an investment at a government level for it to really turn it around. And there's also going to be need to be more interest in young people taking up vocations and trades in manufacturing, and that being a really positive thing, and people seeing that as a positive thing, and there being that succession plan in place. Otherwise we will lose this talent, because we have some amazing people here, and the industry has definitely shrunk from what they've told me over the last 30 years. Like, even just 30 years ago, almost everything was made here. And then, with the world opening up and everything becoming so global and so easy, so much of that has gone offshore. And then I think going through universities and tech schools, there's a lot of focus on becoming a designer rather than a maker, and making a tech pack. And I'm not the specialist expert to be sprouting off this type of commentary at all. I'm very much an onlooker and the beginner's mindset person, just looking in and being shocked and absolutely wanting to raise some awareness about it. But I think it's an area that could create so many jobs, and it's a sustainability piece that COVID has brought up, because it's really brought to the fore, kind of brought all the threads together, so to speak, in the fact that we don't want to love those. We don't want to be so reliant on offshore if, this is going to be something that we're going to deal with multiple times, or if this is our new way of life on and off being in lockdown, or, whether we're going to face multiple pandemics or whatever that may be. It would be great to be able to be more self-sustaining and to have more flexibility with creating and making here, and to be able to be bringing the wealth and the jobs back here. Particularly when there are so many people that are in pain, and there's a way to work together as a team, and it's all positive and community and supporting one another. Because
this is just an amazing, aside from being a case study in sustainable fashion, a real living example of what that could look like, and role modeling that, I suppose. It's also, I think, a really interesting innovation case study around that power of collaboration. Watching that video, which we'll post for people to have a look at. If you're tuning into this, we'll include it in the show notes as well. I recommend watching it. I personally had a little cry when I watched it.
I did.
I think you actually cry at some point in the video, but I definitely did. Because it was just, I feel like it just really captured the mood of that time. It was so, and I think that you mentioned up top, of this conversation that, you're sitting in your lounge room, your little newborn is really sick with reflux. It's kind of like everything feels like it's closing in, and there was just that overwhelming feeling, especially in that sort of first wave of hopelessness and the unknown, and we didn't know how big the magnitude of this whole thing was going to be, and business owners like you as well questioning what's going to happen. But I think it's such a great case study around collaboration, because you're not just sitting there saying, oh, this is hopeless and how do I wind down my business or any of this. It's kind of, okay, what can I do? What is within my control? how can I act on this? And at the same time, there's sort of 22 people that have been energized and inspired, not to mention everyone that watches the video. So it's more of a comment than a question. My question attached to that is, like, talk me through.
It's you. It's you're the expert in this area. No,
you
are the expert. I'm the fangirl of you. It's about the user experience. You are the expert in this area. This is me fangirling you. It's absolutely about critically pinpointing the emotional connection with the person who is part of the making journey, but also the wearer, and them identifying and resonating with the message that you're sending and truly trying to understand the user perspective. So I was that mum at home with a newborn and a young, very active, two little boys, very active, running around, trying to, keep them enthused, not having too much screen time, still trying to do a business, try and do these hectic Zoom calls with kids throwing stuff at each other and making sure they don't kill each other in the background. And then wanting to wear like a slogan top that I felt, put a pep in my step, and thinking, maybe that'll make a difference in other people's lives that are also feeling tiny difference, but something that will make you feel good when you wear it. Feel good about the fact that they're supporting a supply chain that each of these businesses is paid something to create at the end of the day. It was absolutely about trying to find something, because I'm not huge, it needed to be something that people really felt viscerally so that they would feel connected with it. It had to be about that.
Yeah. So good. I want to drill a little bit into, we sort of go off the Support Local campaign a little bit, and more around like Kate the Innovator and your process. And I know it's probably different all the time, but there is a red thread through your whole career. Gilbert and Tobin, like G&T is known, I think, in law circles as being pretty innovative. I met you back in the day when you were part of a program we did with IDEO. You put your hand up to be part of, even when you're in law, at the forefront of innovation. And then you go and found She Lion, so an amazing designer handbag brand, Australian owned as well, which is very unique for Australia. And I think even in between the campaign, you've had a little side hustle creating little studios for backyards, for those little sustainable
yes, we did
houses.
That for a very short period of time. That's been sold now. Yes,
so,
that was for my husband. That was for my husband, okay. But I was involved on a consultant basis.
Innovation consultant.
As a wife, yeah.
Like, how do you approach each of these sort of projects? Just even if it's just the mindset of like, how do you get things like this going?
I think it's about knowing that if there's something that you want to do, that you can go and do it. And if you really want to do something, that you should just go and do it. And I'm a massive advocate of executing and getting it done. There's this amazing woman called Michelle Redfern, and her slogan is "Get shit done." And I love that. And she's the lady to go see if you want to go and do a workshop about how to get shit done. She's amazing. But yeah, I'm absolutely about, if there's something you want to do, it's just going to take guts and determination and persistence. And there is no magic sauce. It is persistence. And I think having a little bit of space to be creative and making sure that you play. Again, a gift from you, Fee. Absolutely. It's all about making sure that you play. So I think having play with team, with children, with family, anywhere you can get that is where you spark these creative ideas. And then you sense test them with people, and then you make sure you sense test them with who they're actually for, and ensure that the user is actually going to be thrilled with the outcome. And if that is the case, then it's something you run at hard, and you just keep running at it until you get it done. And you might have to change it along the way, but you make sure that you keep pushing until you do it, and your only limit is you. I know I sound like I'm just spieling off a whole lot of cliches, but that has just been what I've lived. You just keep pushing. I have an amazing support network, but anything is possible with a bit of guts and determination, is what my grandfather always used to say, and it's absolutely been what my mother has instilled. And both my parents, you know, if you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't. I feel like I say that to my sons now, and I'm like, oh my God, I've turned into my parents. But yeah, I mean, there's no secret sauce in anything I've done. It's absolutely just keep on keeping on and having an amazing network, and yeah, so giving back where you can, and coming back fourfold.
Yeah. And they're not cliches. You know, I think what you've hit on there with that persistence and the getting shit done and going at it, you know, they're the parts, the initial kind of spark of the idea is in some parts, that's the easy part. You know, not for everyone, but it can be, but it's actually being able to see that thing through. And as you said, taking that iterative approach, putting it in front of people, getting that feedback, building on the next part, building on that until you've got something that you feel confident about and you can get out there.
And I think it's a work in progress. I don't think you're ever done. I think you're always iterating. And if you're not in a constant state of beta, you will fail. Like and everything has a life cycle and everything has a lifespan. And I hope it's not the end of my handbags, because COVID has dramatically changed how we work and so many people work at home. But like, you know, if that's the case, I need to innovate in a way, or I need to come up with something that is solving the problem that people are actually facing now in that space. And I think absolutely going forward, I 100% want to have an Australian supply chain within the business, and slogan tops that benefit all of these other small businesses, including my own, is a fantastic thing. And it aligns with the brand about walking fearlessly and being empowered, and bold ambition, and fierce elegance and premium practicality, because they are practical, they are premium, and they do make you feel bold, and they are a statement. So they're all very on brand, and I see that as being a staple in the business going forward. But I think the thing is that it's about learning to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And I am not good at that either, but I think I am good at leaning into feeling uncomfortable. And you know, you just constantly have to iterate and constantly learn and constantly listen, and take in as much from other people and learn new skills and build your network. And I think, you know, that's what everybody's doing. That's what everybody needs. You know, everybody's doing that. I'm not anything special. I'm just telling you what I'm
just going to keep stopping you with that. You're like, I'm no expert. I'm not special. Yes, you are. And that's why you're here. Tell us about leaning. I mean, there's a lot of examples of that through the story. I want to hear more of your storytelling of this time and how you've achieved what you've done with Support Local, about sort of leaning into that discomfort. Were there ever moments during, you know, the design phase or the manufacturing phase, or, you know, even pre-launch, where you were like, this is too hard, we're not going to get there? Did you ever have moments of that? Tell us about some of those and how you got through it.
I think when I become really passionate about a project, I absolutely have the feeling of something is difficult, but I'm never in the space where I find that I say it's too hard, because I feel like if I give up, then that's the bigger failure. So I don't feel like I ever let myself go to it's too hard. I think after having, as a side story, I did the bar exam in New York to be a qualified attorney in New York, because I wanted to be a fashion lawyer before I started all of this, realizing that I actually want to run a fashion business. But I had told everybody, because I was so excited about doing it, and it's quite prestigious, so it was a big ego thing, you know, I'm doing the bar exam, and I failed. And it was the biggest public failure of my life, because I'm like a type A, you know, always wanting to achieve, do stuff. And I had told so many people, and then everybody's asking, how'd you go? And I failed. And it was like huge for me to get over, like this massive vulnerability piece. Sounds stupid, but it was. Anyway, I failed by 1%. You need 665 across 30 subjects, 60%. I think that the grading has changed a little bit now in the number of subjects, but when I did it anyway in 2007, and I got 655. And so I just remember being an absolute mess the day I found out, and so embarrassed. And my mother, who's been like integral in like this whole mindset, was just like, that is very disappointing, Kate, but just do it again. And so I did. And I got up at 5 before going to work full time and studied, and then would get home at 8 or 9, depending on how busy it was at work, and then studied until 12. And I passed. And I think doing something like that has really opened my eyes to the fact that anything is possible. I mean, that was really hard. And nothing that I've done after that has been as hard as that. So even when things are really hard, and absolutely have days where I feel like I can't go on, but it's not, I don't feel personally like I could get to that point where I say I'm going to give up, unless I've exhausted all options. And that's just my brain. But I absolutely feel that it's difficult. Like, for instance, in manufacturing came to a complete stop multiple times because of the lockdowns, and so the garment manufacturer who was supposed to make the sample said, I can't, it's like $100,000 fine, and I can't do it for 3 months. And I'm like, I can't have this, like I've made all this outlay in capital, and I need to have them here. I need to start selling them because I've spent all my money. And so then talking to the patent maker, and she's like, oh, well, maybe there's a darkroom sampler. I'm like, well, what's a darkroom sampler? And so then coordinating the samples being made in darkrooms, like in solo seamstress homes, was this option that I did not know was a possibility. So it was just like digging to get the samples, and then they became the pre-production samples that they used. Otherwise, everything would have been pushed out again. Or like when they were bleaching the white, someone in the dye house got COVID and they had to close for a fortnight, obviously, to isolate anyone. I couldn't do anything about that, but there's just another multiple things had happened. And then just about to launch this year, and then my son was really, really sick, and we presented at the Royal Children's 3 times, and he had a brain infection. He had meningitis, he had mastoiditis, and an infected bone, like hectic stuff. And so we're essentially, I had to live with him at the Royal Children's for a while in a hot ward, because you're in the COVID ward, so you can't have visitors. I couldn't see my 4-year-old. My husband was like barely allowed to come in. They didn't know what he had for ages, and they're doing all these insane tests, like he might die or go blind or go deaf. He's fine now, thank God. But after that had happened, we then came home, and they said that you're going to have to isolate at home with both children. So then we were out of lockdown, but the surgeons were saying because he was so sick, he can't go back to childcare. The other one can't go back to childcare. They've got to be isolating at home for 6 weeks. So it was all that again. So then I was at home because, of course, it's the mum that the youngest child wants. So the mum, of course, stereotypically is at home with both kids trying to work again in a lockdown. And so that was like sort of a few weeks before the video was filmed, hence that got super raw, super quick. But yeah, I don't know. I think that, if you say you can, and if you say you can't. And that's basically it. Things are hard. Like life is really hard. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's really hard. And I think you've just got to try and be grateful for the good times, and hold on tight when it's tough. And ideally have some human connection and community that lifts you up and pulls you through. And I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing network that absolutely catches me when I'm falling. So I want to be able to do that for other people too.
Oh, amazing story. Okay, you're living the slogans of your t-shirt as well.
That's why.
I can.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. Yeah. Because we really didn't know whether we could. So it was like, well, we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, and it's not just keeping on. Like, that's the kind of thread as well through your story. It's more than keeping on. It's standing up, and it's doing something that's above and beyond. Like, it is something that's exceptional. It's not, it's knowing it might fail and doing it anyway. Throwing it out there. And as you said, like trying to bring a few other people along, and there's more than a few, there's the 22 plus some that you've brought along. Talk to me about some of the you've seen enormous success from this now. So what has happened with the campaign? Has it sold? What's happened with the tops? Tell us.
Yeah, well, we've sold out of the most popular sizes, which is hugely exciting. And we've already placed our next order. And then we've also ordered the fabric to be made for the third order. And then we're prototyping an exciting new concept as well, which I'm really pumped about. But I'm not sure how long that will take. So I won't tell you exactly what it is yet, but I'm super pumped about it. Yes. But just the people involved in the supply chain are unbelievably generous with their time, incredibly patient with someone who knows nothing. I know a lot more now, but like so patient and so wonderful. And the whole experience for me was just something nice and happy for me to be focusing on while I was in lockdown for such a long time myself. And they are much more helping me than I am helping them. Like I'm trying to give back by giving exposure to their businesses and highlighting manufacturing in Australia as being something that, we need to really think about if we want to keep it here. But they are absolutely the ones helping me.
Talk about some of those lessons, so things that you've learned through this campaign, and congratulations on that. I think it's amazing for you and those collaborators. We'll get you to give a bit of a shout out to a few people in a moment.
Yes.
But what lessons do you think you're going to take forward, maybe in how you're looking at She Lion? Has it sparked some other ideas as well? Are we going to see you campaigning for sustainable fashion in the Australian government, or what? Seeing like the combo of law plus fashion plus this campaign, it's kind of,
I don't know. I'd be happy to help someone do that. I don't know that I'm the expert in the field to be the one that's the face of that. I'm sure there are lots of other Australian fashion labels that make in Australia. I am by no means special in that sphere. I'm just someone that's trying to shine a light on it. And there are a lot of other people that are like a lot more sophisticated in this area than I am, but I'd be super happy to help. I think it's just really reinforced again the fact that being vulnerable and asking for help is really powerful and is actually a strength. And honestly, anything is possible if you're willing to ask. And, if you don't ask, it's no. But if you do ask, it might be yes. And with She Lion, with this latest project, really with anything that I've tried to do, being comfortable saying, I don't know the answer, will you help me find it? Or I don't understand, or is there a better way to do this, or am I missing something? Can you help me please? Is insanely powerful, like magic. Like that's where the magic happens. And you have these people that you might have met for 5 minutes, like give you these gifts and are willing to go above and beyond to connect you with people, or provide you with a piece of advice that would save you huge amounts of money, or the list is endless. And I've only really experienced that since starting my own business. And I've learned more in the time running my business than I have in any of the study that I've done. And I've done a lot of study. All of the life skills and the amazing things that I've learned have come from interacting with other people and other people's generosity and being vulnerable and asking for help and saying, I don't know.
Who are some of those people? You mentioned like you've got this amazing sort of support network. Who do you really lean on, and who have been some of those great collaborators recently?
There are so many to list. Apart from the list, the 22, I'll tell you, there's Ralph at Top Knit Fabrics is amazing. So is Brian. Ella from Cloth Creative, Maria from Stella Park, Above and Beyond, Bill Stanley from Market Apparel, Phil, obviously I've spoken about, from CGT, the garment manufacturers, and his mum, Vicky. Oh my God, I feel like family. They feel like my family. Amazing. Archie Labels, really amazing. I mean, the woman that was helping me had gone in and out of hospital while she was making the labels, and she was so determined to make them because everything was being made in Melbourne, and to do them within this time frame. It was just so like above and beyond of her to do that. Tess Carpenter, an amazing graphic designer who's been part of Sheila and helping on a freelance basis since I began. She's the one that makes the website look amazing, the lookbooks look beautiful, and helps position everything on the tops for me. Val and Glennis from T-Shirt Oz, they have absolutely gone above and beyond, giving me lots of advice. They're the industrial screen printers and embroiderers, lots of industry advice, lots of time just counselling me on whether something is right or wrong, and how they would go about it. Rufus and Cooper, Sam Penninger, he's been my photographer throughout Sheila, and a massive mentor, huge support, like way more than just a colleague, like a friend. Yeah. Shani Hyde is like my work wife. She's my 1 day a week amazing growth marketer, and she's literally my work wife, an amazing woman. There's Richard from Pinpack, obviously Vizzy, Tanya from Direct Mail Corporation. She's so inspiring. She's the head of operations at the 3PL. Matt Hanley, he is an amazing graphic artist that pulls timelines together, which I think you introduced me to him originally, so you too as well. Renice Brewster from Visual Domain, I can't sing her praises more highly. Like, she is just an absolute trailblazer, inspirational woman, has done the most amazing things in her career and has the most successful business, and is unbelievably generous with her time. I am so indebted to her. Elise Hendrickson from Shout PR, also amazing. And Nikki Yahtzee from Maxco, as well as Fast Printing in Sydney, who also have always made my business cards and stickers and thank you things, but they did all the barcodes as well.
Yeah.
And they're just the people in the supply chain. I really have a vast network beyond that are also really supportive too.
Yeah. I think that's so good. Again, such a great story for collaboration as well as innovation. Thank you so much, Kate, for sharing your incredible story.
No, I feel like I should be interviewing you. You've done so many amazing things yourself. You have.
No, hardly. Yeah. This is really inspiring. I mean, just on so many levels, I think, we've touched on just, I think, like grassroots innovation, the power to bring people together, the sort of mindsets, and also just acting, without too much thinking in some cases. And I think that's really important even for people who are just starting out in their innovation journey, to hear some of this, as well as people who are established and doing this in organizations. So thank you, Kate, for sharing your knowledge across both of those spectrums. It's been amazing. And for those shout outs as well, congratulations to all of those people for being part of this really incredible campaign. We will, as we said, we'll add the link and the video. Tell us, where can people go to buy, where should they head to now to buy one of these jumpers? Let's try and sell the rest of them out and the next one as well.
Yes. Please come to shelion.com.au and buy one of these beautiful tops. This is the support local version. And then we have a white, actually I can. And yeah, feel great wearing them, and all power to you. And together we can do anything. And thank you for your support.
Amazing. All right. Enjoy your day. Thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Fee.